Right, welcome to this little gem. So while I was waiting on a replacement printhead to arrive on my TronXY, started looking through some of the manuals and playing with Cura a bit, and one thing that popped up that I thought was quite strange. Now in the manual and how I was originally using Cura, it comes down here and it tells you in Cura, select the TronXY XY-2 printer, rename it as the VEHO 1016, and then make some changes to the X, Y, and Z axes in order to adjust them for the size of the printer that you're using. And that's what I did. That's what I used. And then I tried to use the supplied 6mm nozzle profile that was on the USB stick. I was amazed that, following the guidelines, tried to import it then into the Cura, and it wouldn't import. So I had to go to the TronXY website, where they also have the nozzle profile available for download, and the one off their website worked. So I can only assume that the one that was on the memory stick is an older version, and when they updated Cura to the version that I downloaded, something didn't gel right. So it didn't like the one that came with the printer, but it did like the updated one off the website. So I was again looking just to see what else they had to offer, because you can get the manuals and all sorts of other goodies as downloads. And I was looking at the frequently asked questions, and it says, how do you use Ultimaker Cura for software for the VEHO Series 3D printers? And the answer to that was, TronXY units are listed on that, but there are no VEHO models. Correct, that's why the manual tells us to use this one. However, it says here you can just pick the X5SA/X5ST and reconfigure the print bed size. Oh, okay. This says the XY2, this says the X5SA. Okay, that's the difference between them. Oh, I wanted to find out, because I'll tell you now, there is a problem with the Gcode with that XY2. And one of the things it mentions in here is to adjust the bed sizes, and puts a big red box around them. One thing it has down here is Gcode, and it just says G91. No explanation, G91. When you print something using that XY2 start name Gcode, when it's finished, the last thing it does is sends the bed and the printer head home. And that can be a really bad thing. For the printer head, it's not so bad. It flies off into the top corner and sits there quite happily. But the bed, from wherever it ended up, and remember, the bed comes down with the print on it. The bed resets itself and moves all the way up. Now, I've got a 1016, which in theory could be a 1.6 meter high print. If you've got the smaller one, you've got a 1 meter high print on that thing. And that bed goes up on mine. I'm already 1.6 meters up in the air, plus a bit extra. You've got a print on the bed that's also 1.6 meters high. Guess what? That's going through your ceiling. It's going to drive it up and put it through your ceiling. It's stupid. The only way to stop it is you've got to change G90 in the encode to G91. But it doesn't tell you, it's not ringed, there's nothing there. So it's a pretty easy fix. Or you just take the command out that tells it to bring the bed up. But it's not mentioned anywhere in the book. That could be a real surprise. And it was for me when my K9 body finished printing. And there it was, just short of the ceiling. So I was kind of lucky it wasn't a bigger print than it was. So I kind of hoped perhaps it's got some better G-code in this. So I imported this one into Cura as well, adjusted the bed size. Now I did have to adjust the nozzle print head settings. The X minimum is off slightly, and it's just basically telling it where the nozzle is, whether it's center or slightly off to one side on the print head, depending on the shape of the print head. So I did have to adjust that as well. Then I ran it, and sure enough the bed stayed where it was. However, there's a problem with the G-code in this one as well, because it sends the print head not to the back left corner, but to the back right corner, and it puts it right over the plastic ribbon that protects the cable as the print head moves back and forth in the y-axis direction. And that can be a bad thing, because if those plastic links lock up and they're sticking up instead of lying flat, and that does happen a lot, that head, the nozzle part, will just go straight into that plastic, hit it, and then you're going to have the machine trying to force that nozzle off to one side, and that plastic is strong because of the way it's designed. It's going to resist it, so something's going to give. You really don't want to be doing that to your printer. So let me go and show you on Cura exactly what I mean, and where you adjust these things. So here's Cura. I've got multiple printers set up. So here was my original one with the VEHO XY2, and if I go to preferences, configure Cura, and go to the printers and the machine settings, in the end G-code, there was this was G90, set all access to absolute. That needed to be G91, like they had in the picture there, and that's what was making the bed come up. It's going to go to its absolute value, or wasn't going to go to its absolute value. It was going to go to its original 0, and that's what was making it potentially shove the model through the ceiling. So that's all it needed. G90 changed to G91, and it would be all right. Now on this new one, we can do it. Change this. Preferences, configure Cura, printers, machine setting. Okay, so here's the G-code for this X5 SA profile, and I've remarked out the original bending code, and that was this G1 X machine width by X machine depth, which was to park the print head, and that's the command that was sending it all the way to the back corner. So all I really needed to do was to use a 0 value instead of machine depth values. So if I just change them on the X, instead of using machine width, which was 1000, it's going to send it all the way over to this corner. If I just change that to X0, it's going to leave it over on the left hand side, and that's what I did. So I've remarked that one out, copied the same line, but just used X0 instead of X machine width. That will keep the printer safely away from that plastic ribbon. Seems obvious, but this really isn't mentioned in the manuals. It really isn't mentioned. Well, it isn't mentioned in the manuals. It isn't mentioned on the website, and these do have the potential to cause some damage to the machine and your ceiling. Something TronXY really need to address, in my opinion, or better still, give us a full profile of a printer that we can just import that has the correct start G code and correct end G code with no other adjustments necessary. And that way nobody can mess it up, we hope. So right now what I'm doing is I'm using this new X5SA profile. I'm running off 2 test cubes on the machine. After I finish the bed leveling, I just want to make sure that the print heads are going all right. So I did the first one using the VEHO 2016 6mm nozzle, which I downloaded from their page. And having printed that cube, here it is, it's come out quite nicely. I am now printing another one using this normal quality, which is a 0.2mm layer height instead of the 0.3, which was used on this one. So I'm hoping I see some improvement on the layer lines. I mean, they are there, I can see them. So let's see if it comes out any better. I then also sliced another one using the original profile with the 60mm nozzle, just to compare to this to see if there are any other changes that come out of it. Well, we shall see. What I'm going to do now, run the camera in there, and I'm going to show you on the printer what I meant about the positioning of the print head and how they could cause some damage. Okay, so here's the problem that we face with the G-codes. On the one from the manual, when the print finishes, as I mentioned, the bed zeroes itself, which means that the bed comes back up from wherever it finished at, raises all the way to the top again. So whatever you had on the bed, if you can imagine perhaps a print the size of that K9, which would have been up here, that means it would raise it into my fan blades up here. Something taller could even end up going up into the ceiling or through the ceiling. So bad G-code there, which needed to be changed. I say it just needed to change one digit, but it really needs to be made obvious. And then of course the G-code for the printer recommended by TronXY's website does work a lot better, but as I mentioned, the problem is that whereas the old G-code would send the printer head and park it in the far corner there where there's nothing around, it wants to park in that corner over there. And the problem with that is the print head ends up coming over this plastic rail because it is right in the far corner, and the nozzle is only just enough after it's finished printing to clear the rail. So it can be quite dangerous if these links, like you can see these ones here, are buckled and haven't gone flat, which happens from time to time, and that's sticking up. That could take that head, slam it right into this plastic, and then end up sort of mangling the head against it. So not good. Again, that just needs that one change in the NG code, but kind of frustrating that these things are there where they can catch you out.